Good morning. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. We acknowledge the land we're meeting on is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid, in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you'll be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to share screen and any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. People attending in person today who wish to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. When an application is uncontested, the applicant or agent may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes. 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note again that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we call on speakers in the hearing room first and then those participating on WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation, and when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has the opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. All right, before we get to the first item, believe we have some minutes to confirm for the last hearing.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. We have our minutes from the January 16th, 2025. Present was yourself, Mr. Kubo, Mr. Nipfeld, Mr. Bartolo, and Ms. Martin.
Okay. I have a motion. Yes, Mr. Nipfel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move approval of the minutes.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Bartolo. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, are there any declarations of interest, panel or staff, for items in the morning slot? Okay, no declarations of interest. And I presume no files to close. All right. Okay, so let's deal with our deferrals first.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have one deferral this morning. It's item number 12, 8 Hilltop.
All right, we have the agent or applicant with us.
Hear me okay?
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm well. Your name and address, please.
My name's Clay Jansen. I'm a planner at Goldberg representing the owners, and my address is 2098 Avenue Road, North York, M5M4A9.
Okay, it's my understanding you're asking for a deferral.
Yes, we are. I can just say a few remarks, and then if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything.
Very well.
So we're proposing a multiplex and a laneway suite near the intersection of Bathurst and Eglinton. The property has frontage onto Hilltop Road, but it has a side yard condition onto a lane that runs parallel with Eglinton. Just south of us is a Green Pea parking lot. We have 6 variances that were in front of you today, and the deferral request is in response to a transportation memo dated January 30th. And that's to allow for further engagement with city staff. It's mainly related to variances 4 and 5 to permit front yard parking and increased driveway width. We're also in receipt of Metrolinx advisory questions and comments, but we would like to request a deferral today to further engage with city staff.
All right, very well. Seeing as you have no other speakers on this item, let's take this matter into committee for decision. Is Mr. Bartolo?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I'd like to put forward a motion to defer this item to allow the agent to coordinate further with the city on the matters as stated.
Okay, I have a seconder. Second by Mr. Nipfel. All in favor? All right, the item is deferred. All right.
That's all the deferrals I have for you, Mr. Chair. Why don't we start with item number 1?
All right, item number 1. Number 8, St. Ives Crescent. The purpose of the application is to extend the existing third-story dormer width to increase ceiling height and usability of existing office and family room. We have 2 variances before us for FSI and rear main wall height. On file, material from the applicant, as well as multiple letters of support. I also see a late staff report from community planning. We have the applicant or agent with us.
Yes, hello. My name is Nathan Dykstra, and I am an architect with the office of Paul Raff Studio at 703 Bloor Street West. I'm speaking today on behalf of the owners of 8 St. Ives Crescent, who are proposing a modest third-floor extension of 14.88 square meters or 160 square feet to enhance their living space. Is it now the time for me to do my little talk, or do you have any questions first?
I've reviewed the application. I don't have any concerns. I'm going to ask my colleagues whether they require a full presentation for this. I'm seeing heads shake. I will ask you, though, if you have seen the recommendation in the community planning report.
I have not. I checked the AIC yesterday and I didn't see it. Was it posted very late yesterday?
Okay, I'm going to have staff pull that up. And we'll just give you a minute to take a look. Yeah, just give us a moment.
Sure.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just checked the AIC. It was posted on January 31st.
Okay.
It's on page 2 of the supporting materials.
I believe the recommendation is just around some clarification, more a technicality with respect to the inclusion of FSI in what is labeled as the basement on the drawings.
Right.
My understanding is because the basement is technically closer to the established grade, the basement area is part of the FSI. So the recommendation from planning is just to ensure that that is, I guess that is acknowledged.
Yeah, and actually, I was planning in my little presentation to talk about that because we actually had an application for this project a few years ago to the committee, and at that time, FSI was calculated a little bit differently by the zoning examiner and did not include the basement and the garage area. So actually, what's triggering the FSI to appear a little larger than it actually might be in an other case is that we have to include the basement and the garage area because we actually don't have a legal car parking space within the existing garage. So all of the garage area and the basement is included. And also, if I could draw the committee's attention to the site plan, you'll see that it's a odd pie-shaped lot. So those two things kind of come together and trigger, I think, the FSI to appear larger than it normally would on a typical project, and also why there's a bit of a discrepancy in the FSI ask from the previous committee hearing from about 10 years ago or so, when at that time the examiner calculated the FSI differently and did not include the basement.
Okay. So would you say that the 0.65 FSI in the recommendation is accurate to reflect the above-grade portion of the building?
Yes, I would say it is.
Okay. I should also ask if you have any concern, should approval be given to tie the elevation drawings substantially in accordance with to the FSI variance?
The only comment I have on that is would that mean tying the windows as well, proposed window locations to the rear? Because we haven't fully explored limiting distance conditions for that. And I don't wish to be locked into the amount of glazing that we're proposing. It is our wish to have lots of glazing up there, but
Yep.
that's the one ask I would make is that if we're not necessarily tied to the windows as proposed.
Yeah, it's if they tie to the variance, it will just be for the it'll just be in reference to the variances themselves. It's if you want to add windows, you can do that. That's why we put the word substantially in accordance with, just to provide a
Okay.
little bit of leeway.
Yeah,
But
then we have no issue to tying the elevations to the variance.
Okay. All right.
Through you, Mr. Chair, would it help if you tied it to the cross section? Is that helpful?
The cross section would be very helpful for us, yes.
That's an alternative. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that. All right. I'll ask my colleagues, do they have any questions? No? All right. Let's take this matter into committee. Yes, Mr. Mazzieri.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. I think it's a straightforward application and the variance is minor, so I'd like to make a motion to approve this application subject to planning recommendation and also tied to cross-section of the drawings.
All right,
A300, drawing number A300.
do I have a second for that motion? Yes, Mr. Bartolo, all in favor? All right, that's unanimous. Application is approved.
Thank you.
All right, item number 2 on our agenda, 515 Old Orchard Grove. Purpose of the application is to permit an increase in building height on a previously approved new dwelling application. We have 2 variances before us for building height and east and west main wall height. On file, we've got material from the applicant as well as a report from community planning. Have our agent or applicant with us.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Brenda Eisen. I'm the agent for the applicant, and my address is 91 Tychos Drive in Toronto, M6B1W3.
Thank you. Welcome back, Ms. Eisen. All right. Ms. Eisen, have you had an opportunity to review the report that came from community planning?
I have reviewed the comments from planning, and with your permission, I'd like to explain a little bit about why we're back for this house.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Thank you. So this is a proposal for new detached dwelling that may look familiar to you as it was brought previously before this committee on July 4th of last year. When we originally created the design for this house, it was drawn with a building height of 10.74 meters, and we submitted this design in May of 2024. When we received the comments from planning back then, they were apprehensive about the overall height and suggested that the building be lowered to 10.13 meters. In the spirit of collaboration, we are happy to make this change, and with the support of planning and the immediate neighbors, the committee graciously and unanimously voted to pass our variances. After the hearing, we started our design development phase, and we are still dealing with an elevated floor plan, meaning that due to the lot width and the required driveway slope, the garage sits sloped above grade and the main floor of the house sits on top of that. We've now designed a roof with an insulation value of R60, hoping to meet passive house building standards. This is going to require 3 layers of rigid XPS insulation, 2 inches for each layer on top of the roof sheathing. We also have a split HVAC system with several different zones, again, to meet comfort and environmental standards, resulting in a further reduction to the ceiling heights. And there are also several large beams that come through the space. So all of these inches are adding up rather quickly, leaving us with an interior ceiling height that is lower than what was desired by the homeowners. Now that we have coordinated all of this information into our architectural drawing set, we have returned to our original ask of 10.74 meters, which triggers the 2 variances that are in front of you today. I'm aware that planning staff have maintained their original position on this proposed height, but it is certainly not a pioneering height for the neighborhood, and we still have all of the immediate neighbors on side with this ask. This is a difference of only 0.6 of a meter from what has been approved, but one that'll make a huge difference to the homeowner's use and enjoyment of the house. I believe that these 2 variances are still very minor in nature, and I hope that you will consider our environmental and performative priorities when making your decision, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Martieri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question from the applicant. I can see that in the cross-section, but from my colleagues, can you indicate the ceiling heights for each floor, please?
Yes, so what we're hoping to achieve is a clear ceiling height of 10 feet on the main level, which is the level where you'll have the kitchen, the family room, dining room above the garage, and then a clear ceiling height of 9 feet on the second level, which is the bedroom level.
But your cross section is more than that, right? It's 11 foot for main floor and 10 foot per second floor. Or
I
is
don't
this going
believe
to be
so.
added
If
some
you look
ceiling?
at, yeah, this is from the original application. We submitted some supporting material that should be on file as well, and that has the cross section with everything coordinated. And you'll see the one of the main differences is the section through the roof shows the thickness and the roof slope with the purlins and everything that we've coordinated in.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, let's take this matter into committee. Yes, Mr. Nipfel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on the information provided by the applicant and the report from planning and the original decision, I'm not convinced that the application before us has merit. The planning department has, in my view, put forward a reasonable response to the application and has suggested refusal. In answer to my colleague's questions, it appears that the floor-to-ceiling heights they're substantial, and if one had to reduce height of the building, one could do it inside. The 10-foot ceiling doesn't need to be 10 feet. I'm not convinced that there's a necessity for these variances, and I would be in favor of refusing the application, but I'd certainly like to hear my colleagues' views as well. Do we need a motion?
There's no other comments. Do you want to?
Mr. Chairman, for the reasons that I've mentioned, I don't believe that this action conforms with the official plan intent and the bylaw intent as indicated by the planning department. It was negotiated as an alternative previously and approved. I would like to move a motion that the application be refused.
Right. Do we have a second for that motion? Yes, Mr. Schwartz. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, Mr. Marziari opposed? Okay, the application is refused. Item number 3, 142 Parkholme Avenue. Purpose of the application is to construct a new detached dwelling with a rear deck. Got a number of variances, including number of stories, rear platform area, front platform area, side yard setback for a canopy, front entrance height, and front stair width. On file, we have material from the applicant, a report from Urban Forestry, and some late letters of support. We have the agent or applicant with us.
To you, Mr. Chair, we have Leo on the call, but he needs to accept the request to unmute so he can talk.
Right.
Yes, good morning. My name is Leo Mastandrea from Lemcat Consultants. The address is 817 Cosburn, and I'm the agent for 142 Parkholme.
All right, thank you. Sir, I've reviewed the file. I'm going to ask my colleagues whether they require a presentation for this one. All right, sir. It doesn't appear so. All right, if it's all right with you, it looks like we can move this straight through to committee. We have our agent with us.
Yes, sorry, go ahead.
It doesn't look like we require presentation. If it's all right with you, we can move right into committee.
Fair enough.
All right, and you are aware of a forestry condition number 1 with urban forestry?
We agree with forestry condition number 1.
All right, let's take this into committee for a decision. Yes, Mr. Bartolo.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this application is relatively straightforward. I don't see any negative impacts on the neighborhood or anything outrageous in it. Therefore, I will put forward a motion to approve this application subject to the conditions of the urban forestry memo attached.
A second by Mr. Nipfel. All in favor? All right, your application is approved. Sir, with you've got urban forestry number 1.
Thank you.
I might miss it. Thank you. All right, item number 4, 25 Glengowan Road. The purpose of the application is to allow the addition of a 3rd floor on a previously approved new detached dwelling. We've got 1 variance for FSI on file, material from the applicant, letter from the TRCA and RNFP, as well as some form letters in support. We have our agent or applicant with us.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning. Your name and address, please.
My name is Shadia Orani from Orani Architecture, 685 Shepherd Avenue East, here on behalf of the owner of 25 Glengowan Road.
Right. I should ask, any concern with tying the elevation drawings to the variance for FSI?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. I'll ask my colleagues whether or not they require presentation.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
through you, there is one other listed speaker,
Thank you.
I have called them and I got a voice message, so I'm unable to reach this person.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'll ask my colleagues again if they have any questions or require a presentation on this. No? All right. All right. If you have anything to add, you may, but it doesn't appear we need a presentation.
I just wanted to briefly mention that this extra FSI will not cause any changes to the massing or exterior of the house that we originally got approved for. Originally, we used this space as a mechanical room. The needs of the family changed, and the owner requires a home office, so that was the way we could accommodate it. There's not even an added window compared to the original application that we had.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, let's take this matter into committee. Mr. Bartolo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I think this is a relatively straightforward application. The FSI is being fully contained within the existing design. There's no other setbacks, there's no other variances for setback height or anything of that nature. Therefore, I will put forward a motion to approve this application.
If I may, a friendly amendment to tie substantially in accordance with the elevation drawings, just to ensure no substantial changes to the built form
Agreed. I will accept that friendly amendment to be built substantially in accordance with the elevations attached to the application.
All right.
All 4 elevations.
All right, do I have a seconder? Second by Mr. Marziari. All in favor? All right, that is approved. All right, item number 5. 49 Southwell Drive. Purpose of the application is to replace the existing driveway with a new U-shaped driveway. Requires 2 variances for front yard landscaping and a second point of vehicular access. On file material from the applicant, report from community planning, a memo from urban forestry, transportation, form letters of support, and 1 letter of objection. Have our agent or applicant with us.
Hello. Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Clarence Cho. My address is 49 Southwell Drive. I'm the applicant and owner for the application at this address of 49 Southwell Drive.
All right, thank you. Sir, are there any modifications to your application?
Yes, there's one change I'm requesting relative to the decision notice. The original design submitted had a landscaping percent of 48.7. The new proposed landscaping percent is 56.2, so that affects the first variance.
Okay. 56.2 for variance number 1. All right, I am going to ask for a presentation, just given some of the comments from community planning and transportation.
Would you like us to put up the staff report?
Yeah, let's bring up the staff report. Sir, I should ask, have you had a chance to review the file?
I have reviewed the file. It's something I've discussed with community planning as well. My presentation was prepared prior to submission of the report, so I do have some additional kind of points related to the report I could speak to after the presentation as well.
Yes, please. Staff, let's get the timer up. Sir, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. So if we could, I guess if we could make that a little bit bigger, please, and just start on the second slide. Bit of background, my family and I, we've lived here for 4 years. We're pretty active in the community, including starting a neighborhood watch. This proposal came after my wife had a couple of close calls backing out in our vehicle due to a fast blind corner. So we believe that a circular driveway would solve the safety issue while keeping with the neighborhood's character. And that's what leads to the 2 requested variants for front yard landscaping and the driveway access. If we could go to the next slide, please. An important point here is that we've got a unique lot shape that supports this design, particularly the reverse pie shape on a corner bend, which is very much not like the standard rectangle. So as a result, we've got a lot frontage that is both quite wider, 82 feet, than the typical 60 feet rectangle in the neighborhood. And it's even wider at the curb, 91 feet, which is more than 50% larger. This affects the proposal because landscaping and stormwater absorption performs better than the raw calculations may suggest. Also, the driveway proportionality does fit the wider curb frontage. Next slide, please. Here you can see in our original design in the middle, it's primarily focused on symmetry, centering of the driveway on the house, along with a usable turning radius for a passenger vehicle. After the feedback from forestry and community planning last week, we adjusted the design. We lost the centering on the house, some of the symmetry, but we've kept most of the turning radius for safety. Next slide, please. I'd like to speak next to my views and understandings of the 4 tests being applied, first being the official plan. Next slide, please. So we believe the proposal is consistent with the neighborhood character. The reason for that is we looked within a 450-meter radius east of Leslie Street. We found at least 8 homes with 2 points of access. All have smaller lot frontages, ranging from 50 to 27% smaller. All are rectangular lots, meaning their curb frontages are also smaller. All have lower landscaping percentages than our proposal, including a 2023 approval at 54 Hurlingham Crescent for 47%. And given these factors, we believe our design aligns with the neighborhood character while respecting our lot's unique shape. Next slide, please. And just here's just showing a visual to if you go a bit higher, I was just sort of showing a visual of the properties that I was talking about in the neighborhood, and how we're sort of in the middle of that. So next slide, zoning bylaw, and then next, please. We believe the proposal ensures effective stormwater absorption and improved streetscape. Stormwater absorption was a key priority in how we were thinking about this design. The reverse pie shape naturally spreads runoff outward, improving absorption. If you factor in the city landscaping as well, the practical absorption is actually much higher. That's a key point in comparing with rectangular lots. Even our original design exceeded all the existing new driveways of 32 to 47%, as I showed in the previous table. At 56.2, this latest revision goes even further. Furthermore, permeable pavers improve the absorption, unlike the many asphalt U driveways nearby. And finally, the circular shape adds more green space than the existing U driveways. Next slide, please. Here, we've put together a tree protection plan in place to maintain the canopy. It aligns with urban forestry guidelines after we've had a couple of discussions with them. Next slide, please. Third is the appropriateness of development. And next slide. So most critically, we believe the circular driveway improves safety. It allows for safer access and exits without reversing. And so it mitigates the risk of a blind corner where we've got fast-moving vehicles and trees obstructing visibility. So on the left side figure here, you can see the curve turn in question. It's not uncommon for us to see vehicles that exceed the 40-kilometer-an-hour speed limit coming around the bend. And on the right here, you'll see a point of view of a vehicle going southeastbound on Southwell Drive towards the subject property. If you go to the next slide, it's the same slide, but I've just highlighted some things there. You can see in orange and green, the utility pole and 3 trees impeding visibility. And if you look at the white box, you can see it can sometimes be quite hard to even see our vehicle, even though it's on the edge of the driveway. So next slide, please. So we believe this proposal is a net positive to the overall neighborhood character. It's designed to match the subject property's larger frontage of 82 at the house and 91 at the curb. I think it ensures a balanced, well-proportioned driveway while maximizing the landscaping. We believe that the curved driveway softens the streetscape, improving the aesthetics over the many straight trapezoidal U driveways. And here in the figures, you can see the subject property in the middle compared to the 2 other 2-story dwelling U driveways. These 2 properties both have the same total driveway width, despite a much lower curb frontage. We also have 5 letters of support from our fellow neighbors who agree this fits the area. Next slide, minor variance. Next slide. The variances are
final words, just at your 5 minutes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're just, we think the variance is small. It's 3.8% relative to the 60%. So that was just sort of the last point, really. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Marziari.
For you, Mr. Chair, thanks. I have a question from applicant. Can you point out on Southwell Drive, any other address with 2-point access? Car access?
On Southwell Drive, yeah, if you, let's see. If you go to my table, there's 40 Southwell Drive and 31 Southwell Drive, specifically on this street. So that's...
Okay, I can see that on Google Map, yeah.
Yeah, and there's, in my appendix, I've included some pictures of the 8 U driveways that I mentioned within the 450-meter radius, including the 2 on Southwell Drive, if you'd like to take a look at those.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
I have a question just with respect to the new curb cut. Is there any concern of, I guess by allowing for a U-shaped driveway, is there any concern with one of the entrances being moved even closer to the blind spot in the bend?
Yeah, I think that's fair, and it's something to think about. But you know, the reasoning is that, you know, being able to see like coming right outwards, like forward facing, right, like does increase the visibility by quite a lot. So there is sort of, you could see sort of a minor sort of trade-off there when evaluating specifically for safety. But I think, you know, visibility like often sort of trumps all.
Okay, and is there anything that might prohibit you from backing into the driveway?
No, I think like we can back into the driveway as well. I think that's sort of a viable sort of potential like alternative. You know, but I think, you know, this design is something that accomplishes the safety sort of principle, you know, in a different way.
Okay, fair enough. One more question. You have been in discussion with transportation. I'm just curious if there was any discussion with respect to the blind spot in the bend, what their comments might have been with respect to that.
When I did call transportation to ask about like their views on this, and their views seem strictly based on the bylaw, and particularly the landscaping percentage. So they basically said that my understanding anyways was that the comments were purely based on landscaping, and when discussing kind of like the other points, it wasn't safety and those like points weren't really the point of concern. It was just they seemed to defer to community planning on the landscaping portion when I asked them.
Okay,
Mr.
fair.
Chair, the transportation report is in front of you if you want to see it.
All right, thank you. Yes, Mr. Nitfeld?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're very close to the bylaw now at 56.2%. So it seems to me that the landscaping variance is incredibly minor. The larger question is the two entrances. To the point that the chairman raised about possibly creating a problem with an additional entrance onto the roadway, my understanding is this is a safety issue. Have you looked at an alternate of providing a hammerhead configuration to the driveway, which would appear to deal with your safety concern, would remove the second variance, and I would argue that the first variance is almost redundant. You're so close to 60. You'd have much less to request from this committee.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with what you mean by a hammerhead configuration.
Can you, on the screen now, there is your revised circular driveway. Basically,
Yes.
a hammerhead you drive in, provide access to the garage, but then there would be an extension, sort of looking like a hammer, to the left that would allow you to turn around on the front yard and achieve what you're trying to do with the circular driveway, which is to enter with the car facing frontward onto the street, but only having one entrance to the street.
So like a hammerhead, so it's kind of like a miniature sort of circle kind of within the property. Is that how I should understand it?
No, I don't know how else to explain it. Take the existing configuration and put, that's a good way of and it's an L shape. So extend the driveway as an L shape, but you do not have a second entrance to the roadway, which seems to address the issue of this. I think the chairman is trying to address the concern of possibly being a problem with the second entrance. If you had an L shape, you could turn the car around. You would always therefore be able to drive out with the car facing out into the street. I mean, I appreciate the concern.
I see.
That would seem to address the concern, and you could do it presumably you probably could do it within the bylaw, but if not, the 56.2%.
Yeah. So if I understand like what you're saying correctly, just kind of thinking about that design, certainly like, viable in some respects, but if I understand you correctly, I actually think the landscaping would actually be significantly worse, because in that configuration, you would need to put more road on like the private property in order to make that viable for a turn. This isn't like, at the end of the day, it's not like a humongous like sort of amount of private property. And so you need a reasonable like turning radius, I think. So I'm not like sure like that's viable from a landscaping percentage and a turning radius like perspective.
Okay, we'd have to test it. I don't agree with you, but I just wanted to ask the question. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Mr. Schwartz, yes?
So my question concerns, so you mentioned an issue of safety, but I looked at the streetscape here, and it doesn't look like there's hardly any traffic that there should be here. And so I don't understand how you can say that there's a safety issue here.
I mean, it's just based on personal experience with like cars that are like zooming by, like coming there. So that's really all it's based off of. We've, when it comes to, so I don't know how, what else to say about that. These are based on personal experiences from living here over the last like 4 years.
But, so one of the issues I have with a driveway like this is, the streetscape being changed significantly, not only in terms of a double driveway, but the way it's gonna look to neighbors like, you could put cars all along that driveway in a way that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do them, and that, I mean, I'm just concerned about how it's gonna look on that street. It's a very quiet street. It should be no problem getting out of that driveway. And if I were to drive by that, say, in a couple of years and see like 5, 10, 5 or more vehicles just parked along that driveway, I think if I were a neighbor, I'd be upset about it. So I tend to think that the staff got it right here. So I just don't understand why you need this.
Sir, I don't, I've mentioned the intents of, the application, and I don't think most people, you mentioned like 5 or 6 like cars. I don't think most people have that many vehicles to park in the driveway. So I understand the theoretical like concern there, but I fail to understand the practical aspect of that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, let's take this matter into committee for a brief discussion and decision. Yes, Mr. Nipfel.
Mr. Chairman, I'm still convinced that there's another alternative that doesn't require 2 points of vehicular access. I do accept the applicant's concern for safety. Unlike my colleague, I do think on an angle or on a turn like this, it's difficult to see if you're backing out. It's easier to see if you're driving out frontwards. I would be inclined to not approve variance number 2, but I would be open to the change to variance number 1. And interestingly enough, that the applicant's correct. The Transportation Services Report does actually only deal with landscaping. It basically says that they don't agree with it because it doesn't conform with the landscaping requirement of the bylaw. I think the applicant has shown good faith in reconfiguring the driveway so that it's 56.2%, but I still do have concern with the second entrance. So my position would be to refuse variance number 2 and to allow variance number 1 at the revised percentage. Either that or a deferral for the applicant to reconsider alternatives.
All right. Other comments? Mr. Bartolo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll throw my 2 cents in the ring. I don't have a fundamental issue with the application. I think with the modified landscape percentage only being at 56.2, we're almost there. There's a couple other circular or 2-point access driveways in the neighborhood. I don't think it's destroyed the streetscape or the nature of them. So I'm prepared to support it.
Okay. Mr. Schwartz?
I'm just wondering, Mr. Nipfel was commenting on approving 1, which would be the modified one, are you saying? Because he's scaled it back. Yeah, I mean, I could support that. You want to make a motion for that? Do you want me to make a motion? Where do we want to,
Sure.
where do you want to
Make
go
a
with
motion
this?
if you want, yeah.
Why don't you make it, because it's your,
Okay.
like you made it clear, and I'll just second it, and we'll see where this goes.
For the reasons that I mentioned earlier, Mr. Chairman, I would support approving variance number 1 revised to 56.2% and refuse variance number 2.
Okay, so I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion, second by Mr. Schwartz. All in favor? Opposed? All right, the motion fails.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any concern with this application. I looked at the street. I think it's within the character of the neighborhood. There are other houses with two-point access. I had a bit of concern of that, but also the transportation comment is specific about landscaping. With the increase of soft landscaping, I'm ready to support this application and make a motion to approve. I would just include permeable pavers for the driveway, since it's still short with soft landscaping.
Yeah, so just to confirm, the amended variance number 1 is,
It's 56.2
okay.
front yard landscaping with inclusion of permeable pavers for the driveway.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, would that decision be tied to the new plan, the new revised plan?
I would tie it to the site plan, yes.
Okay, we have a date for the site plan for staff. Do we need a reference marker for that site plan?
Yes.
Yes, site plan in the package. There's, I say that because it looks like there were some modifications made. Okay.
Sorry, so there is no revised plan?
Yeah, there is, in his presentation.
If there is a revised plan, we need the firm reference for that revised plan.
There is a revised plan in the
Hold on,
documents. They
sir.
were-
Sir, we're in committee. We'll get it
Sorry.
sorted. If we have any questions, I'll take us out of committee.
It's on page 4 of the presentation material. I don't see a drawing number on it, though.
All right, I'll also note we have urban forestry number 1 condition.
That is correct. Can the staff clarify which one is the latest site plan with 56.2% soft landscaping? Has this,
I don't see one.
you don't see one?
All right, do we need to ask the agent?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Because-
I'm going to pull this out of committee. Let's get the agent back. Sir, could you clarify for us what the most recent revised site plan is?
Hi, sorry, I was muted. There in the application information center, there is a reference file called CA revisions, and the date is January 31st.
Okay.
It might be confusing because there was it was part of a discussion where I copied the application technician when I was discussing with community planning. So the first 3 pages are like some correspondence I had with community planning, but the last page is actually the revised site plan.
I can
It
see
is
that now.
V4.
Okay.
We can see that, yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's go back into committee now.
So it's dated January 29, 2025, correct?
Staff, can we pull that plan up? I just want to
Because the
have a quick look at that. All right, I'm going to pull this out of committee. We're going to ask the applicant, can I just confirm we have the right site plan up? I want a quick visual of this.
That's not it.
This is from my presentation, so I mean, there's a smaller version of the plan in the presentation, yes, on one of the initial slides, but I have also submitted revised plan in a separate document. I don't know if it's
There
like
is
on
a-
the
there
right
is-
side, like the plans book.
There is a site plan dated January 29th that is showing front yard landscaping at 56.2%. Is this the latest one?
Yes, sir. It is V4. So if you go to one of those earlier slides, if we want to just look at it there. So it's the rightmost diagram here on this slide, if you'd like to zoom in.
Yes, that is the one on the file. You see
Okay, we're looking at the one on the furthest right.
Right.
All
The
right.
furthest right, yes.
That's why,
Okay.
yeah. I wanted to make sure we're not looking at the one in the middle.
Yes. The
Okay.
middle one is the
The
one with
forestry
yeah,
issues.
yeah.
Okay.
So, January 29th, correct.
Yes, sir.
Just get confirmation from Deputy Secretary Treasurer Lamb.
Yeah, so open up from the package, it says V4, Committee of Adjustment, January 29, 2025, and it has the revised front yard landscaping at 56.2.
That is correct.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go back into committee. I know there's been some back and forth on this. I've been quiet up until now. I'm usually very skeptical of permitting these sorts of driveways, but to my colleagues' comments, the requirement is for the landscaping is pretty close. Also, I'm happy to see that there has been adjustment to address some of the mature trees on the lot, so there won't be any substantial or injury to the trees. I would be supportive of a motion for approval of this. And I think the use of permeable pavers helps to offset the slight shortfall on the soft yard landscaping. So,
Do you have a seconder?
yeah, we've got a,
I have a motion.
okay, can we just,
Sure,
Put
yes.
that
I'd like to repeat my motion to approve this application as amended. So front yard landscaping increased to 56.2, tied to site plan dated January 29th, with inclusion of permeable pavers for the driveway portion of the front yard, and also urban forestry condition number 1.
all right, I have a second by Mr. Bartolo, all in favor.
Before you vote, though, I just want to speak against it.
Okay.
You can still speak against it, right? Before you vote on it. You got a motion? You got a
Well,
second, you
we're
get-
in the middle of a motion. All right,
I think you get to speak to the motion.
all right. Mr.
Well,
Schwartz?
I don't think I'm going to convince you, but I'm still going to speak to the motion against it with a few other things. And I think I get deference because it's Don Mills. You know, I'm the Don.
You're a Don Mills guy.
I grew up.
I have
I
that
grew
voice
up
in my
here.
head now
This
as I
is Don
drive through
Mills.
Don Mills, you know that.
And so I just want to make a couple comments. Well, I'll vote against this because I don't think it's going to increase safety. I think it's going to be the opposite. I think an extra driveway there doesn't help for safety. I don't see that there's a safety issue on this street. Also, I looked at the other drive. It's true, there's a bit of, it's an area, Don Mills, has been around for like 70, 60, 70 years. And it's retained a lot of its character, and it's sort of in transition a bit with a big house like this, and I'm okay with that. But I think it's not respectful enough to the character of this neighborhood to put in a circular driveway. I don't think it's going to help the neighborhood. I think the staff got it right in their report. So I'm going to support the staff report. I'll vote against this motion. It's not like, it's not a big deal, but I think the staff got it right in terms of the planning aspect of it, so I'll vote against it.
All right. Okay, so we're going to go back to Mr. Maraciari's motion. We have a seconder for that motion. Mr. Bartolo, all in favor? All right, the motion passes. Opposed? Okay, Mr. Nitfeld and Mr. Schwartz. It's a close one, I will say. All right, the application is approved with condition.
Thank you for all of your consideration.
All right, item number 6. I believe we're on. Number 6, Vonda Avenue. The purpose of the application is to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling. Variances for north and south side yard setback, driveway width, lot coverage, as well as 2 variances for main wall height. On file material from the applicant, transportation memo, as well as 1 letter of concern. We have our applicant or agent with us.
Yes, good morning. My name is Christine Dan, agent of 6 Vonda Avenue. My address is 2710 14th Avenue.
All right. I'm going to ask my colleagues whether they require presentation for this file. Maybe? Okay. Maybe if you have any specific questions, perhaps we can just jump to those. Okay, it doesn't appear we need a full presentation. If it's all right with you, we're prepared to take this into committee for a decision. Also, I should ask if you are aware of the conditions noted in the transportation report.
Yes, we have reviewed the transportation service memo and understand the conditions in the report.
All right. All right, if there's no further questions, let's take this into committee. Yes, Mr. Nitfeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support this application. I think the variances are reasonable. The proposal is reasonable. What I'm particularly pleased with is the built form of the building. Unlike so many integral garage houses, this one doesn't have the house sitting atop the integral garage and therefore adding to the height. The integral garage is truly integral into the design of the building. I would like to suggest that the massing be tied to the elevation drawings to ensure that we get what we're seeing. And the approval would be subject to the transportation conditions that are noted in their report.
Of course, substantially in accordance with, I presume?
Please.
Yep. Okay.
The front drawing would be front elevation.
All right. Care to put the formal motion forward then?
Oh, sure, I thought I did that. Sorry. I'd like to move approval of the application, subject to the transportation conditions and also subject to the massing of the building being substantially in accordance with the front elevation on file with us.
All right, second by Mr. Bartolo, all in favor? All right, that application is approved. Yes, yeah, just the front elevation. All right, item number 7, 311 Hillsdale Avenue East. The purpose of the application is to permit the installation of a new in-ground pool and fence enclosure in the rear yard of the subject property. 1 variance before us for rear soft yard landscaping. We've got material from the applicant, memo from Urban Forestry, Metrolinx, 1 letter of concern, as well as a letter of support. I also have a late staff report from community planning. Let's get that up on the screen. We have our agent or applicant with us.
Hi there, my name is Anthony Bartolini from Square Design Group at 1204 Hill Street in Innisfil, and I'll be speaking as the applicant for this file. I'm happy to answer any questions. If I'm allowed to go forward with a presentation, I can do so.
Yes, we'll need a presentation from you, sir. And
Okay,
we'll
sure,
put
yeah.
up the late staff report for you.
No problem, thank you.
Just before you get started, my colleague has a clarifying question for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you, somewhere in your presentation, can you clarify whether your soft landscaping, which you proposed, includes the actual pool?
Yes, for sure.
Thanks.
Yeah. No problem. So for this application, yeah, no problem. So for this application, we are proposing a slight decrease to the required soft landscaping for this property. Initially, we were proposing a 35.62% soft landscaping for the rear yard. Based on the planning recommendations, we did make an increase to the soft landscaping to 40%. And also after speaking with the neighbors about their letter of opposition, we did make an increase to the soft landscaping that's actually adjacent to their property.
Okay.
Based on the
Sorry, I'm
yeah.
going to interrupt. So there's
Yeah,
a
no problem.
modification to the variance?
Yeah, so it says on the staff report, we've modified it from 36.2, sorry, my apologies, 35.62% to 40%.
40%.
So we
Okay,
did
thank
make
you for that clarification.
Yep.
Yep.
No problem. And yes, so the soft landscaping does include the pool.
Okay. We have another speaker. Actually, before we get to our next speaker, I should ask, is there any other questions? All right, let's move on to our next speaker.
Mr. Chair, did you want the applicant to make a small presentation? Since we
Oh,
have
I
a
thought he
speaker?
just did.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sir, I should ask, are you, you're finished with your presentation, right?
He made a change to variance 1, and he clarified the pool as part of the soft landscaping.
Thank you.
Sorry, I apologize. I had muted myself there by accident. Essentially, that was kind of the extent of our presentation. We're asking for a small decrease to the soft landscaping. I did speak to the neighbor's authorized agent because she did give me a call, and I was happy to help out and kind of increase the amount of soft landscaping in the backyard, which is actually adjacent to the neighbor's property there. But based on the letter of opposition, I wasn't able to speak on the relationship between the two neighbors. I did try to justify the situation as best as possible. So I spoke with both parties. In doing that, I was able to make an increase to the soft landscaping. Yeah, like I'm happy to answer any questions in relation to that variance. But for the sake of this presentation, I did have brief discussions with the neighbor's authorized agent. I guess she did give me a call, and we had a very nice discussion. As mentioned, I wasn't really able to justify any of the comments based on what happened during the construction of the initial dwelling, but I was happy to make an increase to the soft landscaping. And again, to answer the question about the pool, that pool is included in the soft landscaping.
Okay, thank you. I have a question from my colleague, Mr. Nitfeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have site plan drawing A1 in front of us. Presumably that's before you increase the soft landscaping. Can you show us, or can you indicate on this drawing what changed? Because you increased the soft landscaping from 35.62 to 40%. So I'm assuming that one of those landscape strips on the side changed, but I don't know which one and by how much.
So the site plan in front of us on the screen there is actually the one with the increased soft landscaping based on the site development chart.
So that's the revised one.
Correct. Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you.
Question for you. I'm just curious, is the lot, which direction is the lot sloping at the rear?
The lot is fairly flat. We don't actually have a grading plan right now for this current proposal, but it is fairly flat, the lot, for the most part.
Okay.
And just for the sake of this conversation, we have been issued a pool permit for the property, so the pool is installed, and some landscaping around the pool is installed. But we just wanted to get a slight increase to the amount of landscaping that's in the backyard there, just so they can have like a little bit more of a walkway, and then eventually I believe that they have an approval through TLAB for a cabana at the back there.
Okay, I'm just looking. It looks like there's two edge conditions against the property line, which you've hardscaped. How do you plan to mitigate drainage along those edges if it's all hardscaped?
So the one along the back property line, if necessary or if recommended through our application, we can add, as we've done in the past, we can add, a 4-inch perforated weeping tile in that vicinity. We've done that, through grading approval in the past. But actually, the 4 inches on the back there has actually already been granted previous approval through a different application in the past.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if that was actually already discussed, but if it does come up again, I'm happy to put mitigation measures in place.
Well, I'm just curious how water gets to the weeping tile if you've hardscaped over it.
So there would be like at the back and the side there's a 4-inch gap between the property line and the fence there.
Okay.
And then along the adjacent property, there's like 1'6", and that's the neighbor that was slightly concerned about the proposal. So we were happy to just increase that there on that side. So typically, I believe 1'6" is usually quite sufficient to be able to manage runoff along the property lines. But again, I'm happy to take any opinions or advice.
All right, very well. Mr. Nipfel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned that this has been to TLAB, and so I gather this site plan isn't accurate. You've got or isn't up to date. There's a cabana you've added. Where is the cabana and how big is it?
So they have an approval through TLAB, but I mean right now we're just doing hard landscaping.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get an understanding of
the
what the
cabana
rear
was
yard
allowed to
looks
be.
like. So where is the cabana?
So like I said, there's no cabana on this proposal, but there was a previous approval where they did approve the cabana at 4 inches to the property line. So the cabana is hard landscaping. So they had approved it in a previous application through TLAB at 4 inches. In this current proposal, we're just proposing hard landscaping there. So we would need to go for a permit approval.
The TLAB structure isn't part, it's not going to happen.
For the sake of this proposal, absolutely not. We would need to go for a permit approval for that. But as I mentioned, like in the previous approval, they had approved a cabana at 4 inches to the property line.
Okay, just bear with me for a second.
We're just showing.
We're just trying to clarify what in the end would happen on the site. I just want to know, are you going to add a cabana or not? And if so, where is it?
Respectfully, as I just mentioned, we're not going to add the cabana based on this proposal. This is specifically for hard landscaping.
All right, we have another speaker for this item.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
My name is Theodore Julius, and I live at 643B Mount Pleasant Road. I want to address the proposal of 40% soft landscaping on the property. As you can see in the rear of the property, this falls short of the requirements, and I have serious concerns about its impact. During the construction of their home, I was very unhappy with the way they handled things. They damaged my parking lot and railing, showing little regard for neighboring properties. I found them to be disrespectful and dismissive when it came to addressing these issues. They have overbuilt their home, as you can see. This is why they did not include the pool at the time. Now they are back with a backyard that is almost entirely stone. Even though they claim it uses permeable pavers, I don't believe it will be adequately manageable to water runoff. With so little permeable area, there's a high risk of flooding on neighboring properties. This situation has been frustrating, and I urge the committee to carefully consider the impact of allowing this property to proceed without meeting proper landscaping requirements. Our city is flooding more and more and more than ever before. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions? I just want to clarify what you said your address is 643B Mount Pleasant Road. Are you adjacent to the subject property?
Yes, I am.
And which side? You back onto the rear, I presume, or the side in this case.
Sure. I don't know how that's relevant to
Yeah, we're just going to pull up the location map. I just want to understand the adjacency. All right, that's helpful. Give me a moment. I see. So just to clarify, your rear lot line abuts their side yard.
Correct.
All right. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any other questions? Okay. All right, let's go back to the applicant and give him a chance to respond to the neighbor.
Hi there. So based on what the neighbor had mentioned, I believe that they had hired an agent at some point because I was given a phone call by I believe it was their agent, and she mentioned to me that that they weren't happy about what happened during construction of the initial dwelling, et cetera, and I respectfully, obviously voiced my opinion and mentioned to them that I'm available to help out as much as possible. But for the sake of this application, I wasn't really able to justify any of the issues that happened during the construction of the existing dwelling. Now, what I was able to do is I did increase the soft landscaping from 35 to 40%, specifically on that property line, and we pushed the hard landscaping away from the neighbor's property. And then I had written her a text message and gave her a call, the lady who called me, and I mentioned to her the modifications that we made, and she basically just mentioned that that she'll see what she can do, and hopefully that there wasn't going to be any opposition in that sense. But I really wasn't able to justify any of the issues that happened, with the fence or what was written in that email with the asphalt and that kind of stuff, because I really wasn't able to get the owner of the property to sign anything for this application to say that we were going to fix, his fence or his hard landscaping, because, I wasn't, number one, I wasn't hired for that, and number two, I wasn't able to speak on those issues because I wasn't there during the construction of the initial dwelling. For the sake of the application, we did make the increase on the soft landscaping, and I was hoping that would justify and make the neighbor in opposition slightly happier about the situation. If that kind of answers some questions in regards to the letter of opposition, I'm not sure exactly the relationship. I did call the homeowner. I'm never a fan of neighbors not being friendly to each other, but I was hoping that the slight increase in the hard landscape, in the soft landscaping would kind of justify and maybe make them a little bit happier. So I hope that kind of answers that question. We are in committee of adjustments to get a slight decrease to the soft landscaping. So for the client's sake, I wasn't able to increase it the soft landscape being substantially more than that. And I just essentially took planning's opinion and increased it to a the amount that they were satisfied with as well, to kind of meet in the middle there. So I really hope that that kind of helps out for that sake. But that's the way we kind of dealt with that situation. If I can answer any questions, I would be happy to do so. For the sake of our TLAB application, as I mentioned, currently we will not be putting an accessory building in the backyard. Typically under an accessory structure, it's considered hard landscaping. There was an approval through TLAB where we showed the hard landscaping in the back. The accessory structure was approved at 0.1 meters from the east and west side lot lines. So that was granted through TLAB, hence the reason why we made the proposal at 4 inches. I did obviously mention to the neighbor that 4 inches is not very typical, but after seeing the TLAB approval, we just moved forward with the 4 inches as it was previously approved. So I don't think there's going to be any major impacts on the neighboring property who's opposed to the file. But again, I'm happy to answer any questions that there is for us.
Okay, thank you. So just to clarify, I'm looking at the site plan, and the amendment that you made in response to the letter of concern is the setback essentially of hardscaping. I'm looking at 6 inches off of the 2-story brick building.
So that would just be the walkway. The main area that we modified. So the walkways, the main area we modified was the area highlighted in gray that says proposed interlock area in gray, because all the rest of the landscaping was approved under the pool permit.
All right.
So we're essentially just asking for those 2 areas in gray to be approved as additional landscaping.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you can see like this light gray increase in color there, but those are the 2 areas that were kind of additional.
Yes. Well, staff, we've got that up on the screen. The site plan there.
So that was our initial proposal. And we did make the modification to push it from, as you mentioned, the 6 inches. And we pushed it to 1'6", so we pushed it a foot there in that area. If you could just scroll over a little bit, just so I can't see the back property line there. And then if you can see the difference, we increased soft landscaping in the back corner there as well. The same corner that the client of opposition the property is there. So we increased the soft landscaping in that corner as well.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, let's take this into committee. Comment? Yes, Mr. Nipfel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the applicant for clarifying about the accessory building. I think basically, notwithstanding all the debate on this, it's a fairly straightforward application. The pool, in fact, is soft landscaping, as the applicant indicated. The paving that is there is an interlock paving, and the amount of landscaping has been adjusted to provide for 40% as suggested by the planning department. I think with those changes, this is quite a reasonable proposal. Also, keeping the interlock paving back from the property lines to allow for further percolation, I think is a good idea. I actually don't have any difficulty with the revised proposal, and I'd like to move approval of.
Before you get to a motion, if I may, first I should ask, do we have any other comments?
Oh, I'm sorry.
If I may just add in my 2 cents. I disagree. I think that the part of the issue that I have here is that the hardscaping, I mean, the 6 inches and the 4 inches is negligible. Like, give me a break. That's, I mean, to call that anything, you're going to put the fence there. To say that you're going to maintain 4 inches of soft landscaping around the perimeter. Part of the other issue is that it's directly adjacent to another building. So you're essentially looking to maintain 4 inches or 6 inches of space to collect water in a weeper and then move it around the property. I'm not convinced in this case. I think a lot of the soft landscaping is coming from the in-ground pool, but I think I need to see something more akin to what's provided on the other property line, that could actually collect some sort of water. Aside from that, I'm looking at a backyard that's completely hardscaped, and I look most of the year when that in-ground pool has got its cover on it, that too is also gonna be a hard surface. So I just don't think in this case, based on the percentages, that they've been able to demonstrate that this is really a desirable condition. And you can imagine if other neighbors have, created a similar condition by providing essentially 4 inches or 6 inches at the property line. I mean, the fact that they have to put a weeper to collect the water and then move it to another part of the property is, I think, a bit of a concern for me. So I'll put those 2 cents, and I'm not sure what my colleagues have to say. But if there's no other concern, I will let you proceed with your motion, and we can see where it goes.
Actually, the point about the paving going adjacent to the existing building is something I hadn't considered, and I think the point you've raised is valid. So I'm going to withdraw my motion.
I'll toss my 2 cents in since.
Mr. Bartolo, please.
I somewhat disagree with the opinion. Like, I think it'd be better if that paving went all the way to the adjacent 2-story brick building and then sloped away from there, rather than having a little 6-inch trench where everything is going to collect and maybe go into their basement. But I'm not here to assess the grading plan or talk about the engineering on it.
It's a little confusing as to where that water is going to slope. The intent is to slope into the pool, or to slope along the long side of the yard.
I don't know that it's been thought out. I don't think there's any plans that really demonstrate that here. Ultimately, it's a 20% reduction in soft yard landscaping that they're looking for on it. From what's required. I'm kind of on the fence about it right now, but
I think I'm also concerned with the fact that it's a new application. It went through some extensive approval at T-Lab. They've had time to work this out, so the fact that they're back here for, I just don't see, the site plan just doesn't seem resolved to me. And I don't typically get into drainage issues, but I really do question the effectiveness of weeper can only do so much.
To your point, the garden area that's proposed on I guess it's on the west side, this proposal would be substantially better were that to extend along the entire west property boundary, similar to the proposal on the east property boundary.
Yeah, I mean, I'm particularly with these rear yard soft landscaping variances, I'm particularly, I pay attention to the property line condition, right? Usually there's some sort of green buffer there to capture the water. I think I'd almost rather not see the 4-inch and the 6-inch. I think it's like, as I said, it's negligible. Like that could even be considered as soft landscaping.
There's also the potential of an accessory building.
That too.
Creates a problem on the other property line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it there. I don't know if there's any other comments or a motion.
Mr. Chairman, reconsideration, I'm looking at a lot more detail than I did previously. I apologize. I think there is too much about this proposal that's just unresolved for us to make a good decision. Based on the information that's before us, I'm now also sitting on the fence, and on that basis, I'm not prepared to support the application that's before us. I would either support a deferral or a refusal.
Mr. Chair, just on a quick note, just on the thought of a deferral, just want to remind committee it's not your job to solve the applicant's problem. What's before you are the variances to consider, the plans that are attached. But it is not your job to solve any issues that you may perceive.
Fair enough, but there have been questions raised for which there aren't answers. And the issue about drainage is a substantially an important issue given the amount of paving, and I don't think the applicant has answered the chairman's questions about drainage satisfactorily, and that would be the reason for my deferral.
Okay, so what's before you is his proposal for his 4 and 6 inch. That was his answer.
Well, Mr. Chairman, to move it along in response to that point, I personally think that given what we have before us, I would move a refusal of the application. There is just too much that is unresolved for us to make it a reasonable decision.
All right, do I have a seconder? Okay, second by Mr. Marziari, all in favor? Opposed? Mr. Schwartz, are you? All right, opposed, and Mr. Bartolo, no, opposed. Oh, okay, that's unanimous. The application is refused. Mr. Schwartz indicated that he's in support of refusal. Yes, thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Let's take 10, how are we doing, 5, 10? 10? All right, 10-minute relief break. We'll resume at 11:48 a.m.
You know, he said in clarifying that his accessory building would be soft landscaping. Did you catch that?
Carl, you might
I thought he said soft later when he second. He was pivoting because the
So, Mr. Chair, I think we're on item 8.
Yes, we're back. We are on item number 8, 44 Berkinshaw Crescent. All right, the purpose of the application is to alter the existing one-story detached dwelling by constructing a new second-floor addition, two-story rear addition, a new rear deck, and covered front porch. We've got variances for side yard setback, for a rear deck, side yard setback, and area for rear balcony, lot coverage, front yard setback for a platform, and side yard setback for the building. On file material from the applicant, report from community planning, and 3 form letters of support. We have our agent or applicant with us.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Your name and address, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Khalid Ibrahim from IDIM Architects, located at 1540 Cornwall Road, Oakville. I am the architect and the agent for this application.
All right, sir, is it my understanding that there's some modifications being made on the floor today?
Yes, correct.
All right. Take us through what those modifications are. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, actually the zoning notice was updated by
Hold on,
changing the
hold
lot
on.
coverage.
Let's just, sorry, I should clarify. Let's refer to the public notice for those modifications. If you can just let us know which number on the public notice.
It's number 5.
Number 5, okay, for the lot coverage. So we're reducing the lot coverage.
Right.
Okay. What number? What percentage, I should say?
The new one is 30.11%. 30.11.
11%. All right. Any other changes?
No. Yeah, that was like a miscalculation by the zoning examiner. So he corrected the zoning notice, and at that time, it was late to revise the zoning, sorry, the public notice. There is no change on the drawings.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Just give us one moment here. I'm going to ask my colleagues whether or not they'd like a presentation from you. All right, I'm seeing heads shake. All right.
I have a quick question.
Yes, Mr. Martiari.
I just have a quick question from the applicant through you, Mr. Chair. I just want to understand how the applicant is decreasing the lot coverage by that amount.
I think he noted it was an error.
It was a mistake by the zoning examiner.
Oh, okay, sorry, I missed that, sorry, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Right. So the site plan is correct then?
Everything is as is, yeah.
Okay, very good. All right. All right, seeing as we don't need a presentation, prepared to take this into committee for a decision for you. All right, let's take this into committee. Yes, Mr. Martiari.
To you, Mr. Chair. I think it's a straightforward application. I don't have any concern with this application, and it's supportable. It meets the 4 tests. So I'd like to make a motion to approve this application as amended. The lot coverage is 30.11%.
Okay. A seconder by Mr. Nipfel.
Could I ask, could I ask you if you entertain a friendly amendment on drawing A11? There is a proposal for screening of the second floor balcony, and I was wondering if you would entertain a motion that the screening be provided as per on this drawing.
Sure, I can include that.
Thank you.
Do we want to check whether or not, I'm just wondering if.
So which drawing number is that?
Just let's take a look at this.
A11, okay.
Oh, on the second floor, I see.
Yes.
Yep, okay.
Yes.
Proposed by the applicant.
I thought you were talking about the ground level, and I thought it's
No, no.
pretty low to the ground.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, it's on the second floor.
all right. So, Mr. Martier, you're going to amend the motion?
To include the screen as, I think it's, the drawing is A10, right?
The elevation that I,
11.
A11.
A11.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, yes, A11. So privacy screen on second floor, yes. A11.
Yes?
Right, it's on second floor, yes. Yes.
All right. Okay, we've got a motion. Do I have a seconder? Yes, Mr. Nitfield, all in favor? All right, that application is approved.
Thank you so much.
All right, item number 9. 740 and 750 York Mills Road, as well as 17 Farmstead Road. This is an application to permit a 3 years temporary parking structure and temporary surface parking with 2 variances for us related to the purpose of the application, material from the applicant on file, memo from transportation, and a memo from development engineering. You have somebody in person. Sir, your name and address for us, please.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Matthew Schuman. I'm a lawyer at McCarthy Tetra. We are solicitors to the applicant. The address is 66 Wellington Street West, Suite 5300 in Toronto.
Mr. Schuman, just a clarifying question. I see another party on my list, Mr. Black.
Yes.
He's with you?
Yes, Mr. Black is an owner's representative. If the committee has very detailed technical questions about what's happening on site, he can answer them.
Okay, very well. I do see we have a neighbor as well that would like to speak, so I would like a brief presentation from you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is a slide deck in the materials submitted, but in my respectful submission, this is a technical variance. There is already a temporary use permission in the bylaw for this site. It was for temporary parking for a 2-year period. The temporary parking is in place now, and we submitted these variances before that 2-year period ended. So it was began in December 14th, 2022. That's when we pulled the permit. The permission was set to expire December 14th. We filed before then, and we are asking to extend that period for a year to take advantage of the 3 years permitted in the Planning Act. So the permission would only extend to December of this year, following which the temporary parking structure would come down, the temporary surface parking would be removed, and construction on the site would continue. This is an existing purpose-built rental apartment site. The 3 towers you see in the rendering are existing 18-story towers. The new construction is for infill stacked townhouses, a new amenity building, an underground garage, and a new public park, and a landscaped open space. The temporary parking is for existing residents while the construction takes place, and the structures will be removed once we have permits from the city to occupy the new underground garage. We have been working closely with the city. The inspectors have been on site. There have just been some delays as construction progresses. So we are confident that the temporary parking won't be needed beyond the end of this year. However, if it is, there is a 3-year limit in the Planning Act, in which case we would have to go back to City Council for a new bylaw for a longer temporary permission. So there's no chance of coming back to this committee. And we have reviewed the memos from ECS and Transportation. Neither of them have objected or recommended conditions, and Urban Forestry did not recommend any conditions either. It's my respectful submission that these variances are minor in nature. This is an existing condition. We're trying to implement the already permitted construction, and so there are no undue adverse impacts. This maintains the intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. As I said, there is a permission already in the bylaw. The OP with respect to temporary uses speaks to, in part, no adverse impacts on traffic or parking in the area. This keeps residents parking on site. In my view, it is desirable for the use of the land, as this is for existing residents to safely park during construction. I should mention the existing bylaws were the result of a contested rezoning that went to the OMB, as it then was, in 2016, that included ratepayers groups and neighbors raising concerns at the time. That included the 2-year period. As I said, construction is ongoing, and we are trying to do the best we can as we work with the city to get these permits. Thank you.
All right. Clarifying question for you, sir. You noted that the current permission expires on December 14th. Is that 2025?
No, sir. It was for a 2-year period from the date of the building permit. So it expired December 14th, 2024.
So it's already expired?
It is already expired, and we submitted this variance in advance of it expiring.
Okay. All right, so we're trying to bring this into compliance then.
That's correct, sir.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. And if approval were granted, you're asking for an additional 3 years from December 14th, 2025. Is that correct? So that would expire.
No, sir. We're asking for 3 years total. So just to extend the existing permission for 1 year.
1 year.
And it would end December 14th of this year, 2025.
All right, understood. Thank you very much. Any questions? Mr. Schwartz?
So why is construction taking so long?
Sir, there were some weather delays. There is also a very strict construction management plan for this site. The hours of construction are limited. No work is allowed on the weekend. There have been some delays with various inspections and permits in terms of even preparing the site. The trades struck, I believe, 3 years ago in 2021, just as we were getting ready to go. So a range of factors, but the parking garage is substantially complete. And as I said, we are working with the city to get those permits as soon as we can.
All right. Okay. We have another speaker. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Aerosmith.
Mr. Aerosmith, I believe you have to accept the unmuting. I believe you can
Peter
speak now.
Aerosmith.
Go
Can you
ahead.
hear me okay? My name is Peter Aerosmith. I'm a local resident to this site, and I'm also representing the local residents association, the YMNA, York Mills Neighbors Association. Note that the construction of the temporary parking structure was started in October 2022. So it's been ongoing, or the construction has been ongoing for over 2 years at the site. I'm not opposing extending the permit for the temporary parking structure because the apartment residents clearly need the parking space. My concern is regarding the LPAT order the lawyer referred to, it's PL 160704. So the LPAT, as it was then, agreed to approve the townhouse construction and the zoning change on the site on several conditions, one of which was a 2-year permit for the temporary parking structure. My question is Minto obliged, or is the developer obliged to inform LPAT, now the OLT, about the extension to the permit? And further note that since phase 2 of the construction has not yet been started, we can anticipate a further construction period of at least 2 years. We note that the phase 2 area on the east side of the site is currently being used for surface parking. So it seems likely that there will be a further request to extend the permit for the temporary parking structure. So my concern is the issue regarding the original LPAT condition. Sure.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, sir, were you finished your submission there?
Yeah, so the question is whether the developer is obliged to inform LPAT about the extension to the permit as part of this process.
Okay. We're going to allow the agent for the applicant to respond and answer your question. But before I do that, I'm going to ask my colleagues if they have any questions for you. All right, no questions. Okay, thank you. We'll turn it back to Mr. Schuman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my respectful submission to this committee that this is an approved zoning bylaw, the OMB, and then the LPAT, and now the OLT has issued its final order. It no longer has jurisdiction over this matter. Just like any other zoning bylaw, this committee has the authority to vary the bylaw. As for construction on site, the only variance before you today is for the temporary parking garage. The other construction is permanent, so it's once those buildings are there, they will be there. And the next stage of construction is for permanent structures, the townhouses that you see on the plan before you. The parking on site will be moved into the underground garage once we have the permits to occupy the underground garage.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Schuman. Let's take this matter into committee for decision.
No, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. From my point of view, it's a pretty straightforward application. I don't see any reason to deny the request. Frankly, if we deny it, I think it will cause more grief and heartache for the local residents. So that's my 2 cents. Barring any disagreement, I'm ready to put forward a motion.
Yeah, I might also add, it's a nice form of intensification in this. You got a tower and a park, buildings essentially surrounded by parking lots that are sort of the integration of different types of housing on the site and the master plan. I think what this is helping to facilitate is certainly desirable for the site. But if you're ready, please make a motion, Mr. Bartolo.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Like I said, I don't see any issues with this proposal. Frankly, if it's not approved, it'll cause more grief in the local area. Therefore, I'll put forward a motion to approve this application as is.
All right, second by Mr. Nitfield. All in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Item number 10, 74 Roberta Drive. The purpose of the application is to construct a new detached dwelling with a basement walkout. We're looking at 5 variances: building length, building depth, lot coverage, driveway width, and canopy encroachment. On file, we've got material from the applicant, a report from community planning, transportation, urban forestry, and some late form letters in support. We have our agent or applicant with us.
Yeah, Sarah Ifra.
Your
Agent for the
address?
applicant, and the address, yeah, 313 Hillhurst Boulevard, Toronto, M6B 1M9.
All right. I presume you are aware of the recommendations noted in the community planning report, as well as the conditions noted in the transportation report, as well as urban
Yeah, I've been
and
through
urban forestry.
Yeah. Yeah. So the staff recommendation we went through, and that's the revised set of plans that I have there on the application center. And in terms of the driveway, no problem. They don't have any issue with the width, but that has no issue. We have no issue bringing it past the property line and changing that number. And then in terms of forestry, no issue. Again, it's standard and we understand. If you want, I can go through a little bit about the lot and depth and how I got to that with planning. And then the coverage, I'd just like to clarify that really the house is 33% and that at-grade patio is what brings it up to the 42. So again, staff didn't have any objections to it. We've got neighbors all supporting it. Our most important neighbor is number 76, which is supportive of it. So if you want, I could talk briefly about the length and the depth. It's a bit of like the property itself has kind of a pie and a skew shape. There's a walkway to one side and then a house to the other. And then the plan itself kind of has some ins and outs. It's not one big long box of 21.62. So let's just make sure we've got the revised plans on here now.
All right.
No, this is not the revised plan. Yeah.
Can you clarify the
Exactly. There we
date of the revised plans?
Yeah, January 27th.
All right.
Yeah. So if you scroll down to the site plan, we could just take a quick look at that and I can give you kind of the different lengths and things. So along the east side, where our neighbor is to the east, nope, the other side. That's the west side. Yes, that's the east side. We've brought the ground floor to 20.71, which is what's noted in the staff report. And the second floor is actually a little bit shorter than that because we've got a 1-story breakfast bay window. And then on the other side, on the west side, you have to take the overall length from the front all the way to the back of that. So we've got the 21.62, but the actual west side from the front of the garage to the back of our bump out there is only 18.60 meters. So yeah, the front of the garage is there, and then you go right to the back. So that length is only 18.6. The overall length from the front of the house at the front yard setback to that final tip of the back bay window, longer one there, that's the 21.62. But on the east side, we did make the reductions that staff discussed with us. We have no rear yard variances or side yard variances. Again, our coverage, it's a variance, but it should be noted that the house itself is 33% and the patio, which is virtually at grade. So I don't agree 100% with that variance, but it's there, so we're keeping it. But that's what contributes to the 41. So impact-wise, that, the extra above the 33% doesn't actually impact anybody. And then, like I said, our neighbors at 76 signed off, 63 signed off, 65 signed off, and then behind our property, 61 Ridgevale and 57 signed off, and a little to the angle of the property at 113 Brookview signed off. So we do have neighbors' support on this, and like I said, to the west, there's a big walkway between the two houses heading towards parks and things like that.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ifra. I have a question from my colleague, Mr. Nipville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you clarify there? We have a site plan in our package, and then revised plans, and that the revised plan is the one that's on the screen right now. The planning department is recommending that the variances number 1 and 2 be substantially in accordance with I gather, with this revised site plan. Could you clarify, are there changes in the numbers in the public notice?
No, because the overall and on the west side, it's still the 21.62. It's because there's different bump outs in the house. What they were most concerned with was the neighbor to the east, where, the length might have had a little more effect on them, although they were happy with our initial length, but planning did feel that may have been a concern. So that's the side we reduced, but because you take the length from the front of the house to the furthest point, which is on the west side, which faces that walkway, there is no change to the number.
And what is tying the approval to this plan achieving? What has changed in the plan?
If you see on the east side there's a bubbled 20.71 meters and 20.09. Those are the two lengths that we reduced for our discussions with planning. So that's the site plan they'd like to tie it to. Because if we look at the original one that was pulled up, that east side was slightly longer by a few feet.
And that doesn't require a change in the actual public notice?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, let's take this into committee. I have to say I'm pleased with some of the slight amendments that have been made in the attached site plan to the community planning report, just to take a little bit of the heat off the adjacent neighbor at number 76. I think that's also mitigated by the fact it's a bit of a pie-shaped lot. You get a bit more relief as the properties extend towards the rear property line. Yes, Mr. Martieri?
To you, Mr. Chair. I had initially a bit of concern with variance number 1 and 2, but with the applicant's explanation, I'm convinced that it's a supportable application. Staff are in general support of this application, so I'd like to make a motion to approve subject to community planning report that variance number 1 and 2 to be developed substantially in accordance with site plan as revised, dated January 27th, 2025. Also urban forestry condition number 1, and also condition as noted on a transportation service memo.
All right, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Yes, Mr. Nitfeld, all in favor? That's unanimous. Your application is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 11, 252 Douglas Avenue. The purpose of the application is to construct a new detached dwelling. We've got one variance for FSI, material from the applicant, and a memo from Urban Forestry. Our agent or applicant with us?
Hi there, you have the applicant Brian Hong with you today.
Hi there. Your address, sir?
252 Douglas Avenue, Toronto, Ontario, M5M1G8.
Thank you. I'm going to ask my colleagues whether they require a presentation from you. I see heads shaking. I just want to ask as well, you are aware of the standard urban forestry condition?
Yes, I have reviewed that, as has my contractor.
All right, very good. Well, if it's all right with you, we can take this into committee for a decision.
If you guys just want to go ahead, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
All right. Any questions? None? All right, let's take this into committee. Yep, Mr. Bartolo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Given that this variance is not triggering any other variances and is relatively straightforward, and I think in keeping with the neighborhood, I have no problem supporting it. So barring any disagreement, I'll put forward a motion to approve this application subject to the conditions of the urban forestry memo attached.
All right, do I have a seconder? Second by Mr. Nitfeld. All in favor? That's unanimous. You have your approval.
Thank you all so much.
All right, item number 12 was deferred, so we're going to move on to the last item of our morning session, item number 13, 97 Wilson Avenue. We've got our agent or applicant in person.
Robert Wagner's 97 Wilson, Mary 5 Mary 2 Zebra 9.
All right, sir. I'm going to ask my colleagues whether they require a presentation from you. I know you've come down here. Okay, yeah, please. We'll ask for just a brief presentation from you.
I have an optometric practice at this location. It has been there since 1992, 23 years. At that time, I had 3 employees. At that time, the bylaw did not state or stipulate how many employees should be there. It has come to my attention that now the bylaw says there's only allowed 1 employee. So I would like to be legally non-conforming, I guess. And when I approached my counselor, she assisted me as much as she could. But when we went back to zoning, zoning said there's nothing we can do until we get a committee of adjustment decision on this.
All right. Mr. Nipfel, question?
Are you proposing to do anything?
No.
Change? No.
Nothing's changing.
So the
No structure, no interior, nothing's
and
changing.
the employees are already there and have been for some time.
They've been there for 23 years.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think also just given the street as well that it's on, if consideration that there's some different uses that it can accommodate. All right, any further questions? Sir, it looks like we're ready for a decision. If there's nothing else you'd like to add, I can take us into committee.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Yes, Mr. Nitfeld.
Mr. Chairman, I support the application. It's, I think it's straightforward. It's basically recognizing the existing condition, and then if my colleagues don't have any concerns otherwise, I'd like to put forward a motion of approval without condition.
All right, do I have a seconder? Yeah, second by Mr. Schwartz. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. You have your approval, sir. All right, that concludes our morning session. The time is now 12:31. We will resume at 2 o'clock for our afternoon files. Thank you, everyone.